transition into the military, what are our expectations in terms of compensation?
Sure, absolutely. Well, what I would say is, depending on where you are, depending on what your specialty is, what community you serve in, I would keep your expectations on year one and year two modest. Okay. And before we throw out numbers, let me just tell you that you can't have it both ways, right? Meaning that if you're a top performer in the military, you're probably frustrated by the pay chart. Well, the business world, what's exciting about it is top performers get paid more than poor performers. And in this performance-based environment, performance-based compensation, merit-based promotion, there is variable compensation. Okay. So there's a lot of things that make up that compensation. And, starts with obviously a base salary. That first starting point may have a sign-on bonus that can be negotiated. Almost all high potential opportunities are going to have some form of a performance bonus, how well you do. Sometimes that performance bonus is tied to you individually only. Sometimes it's a combination of your individual performance versus your team performance. It'll vary based off of the company and your role, but there'll be a performance-based component to it, that a bonus out there. You'll often get a target of what they hope to make you make if you are a solid performer. Oftentimes, if you're in a great company, you may have the opportunity to benefit from company-wide profit sharing. Sometimes you'll have the opportunity to receive some form of equity on a publicly traded company, stock options with strike prices that can be very favorable. If it's a privately owned company, you may be able to earn some degree of equity. Some companies have something called an ESOP. But the point that I'm trying to emphasize is compensation is performance-based and it's variable. And if you're a high performer, and back to what I said earlier, if you like that scoreboard, money is the worst thing, is the least thing you need to worry about. So One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of JMOs make in this transition is they overvalue their year one compensation because they compare it in the business world, because they compare it to what they can make as a GS whatever working for the government. And they don't factor where they can be at the 5-year mark. They are overly optimistic on year one, and they don't appreciate what you can do in year 5. But for us, to just throw out some rough numbers, our last hiring conference, we saw offers that were probably, maybe 80 to 120. That's a huge bandwidth that we're talking about, but that's what we're talking about. But 5 years into your transition, if you're in a developmental opportunity, we would firmly expect that you double your compensation. That is certainly within your grasp if you put your head down and you work hard and you're in the right kind of an opportunity. So, but again, I think when you look at compensation as the pluses and minuses to the transition, in the next 5 years in the transition, if you find the right job and you're in a high potential opportunity, it'll work out well. But the variable part of it is a really key part of it. And again, if you're a top performer, if you're an A performer, if you're a top tier officer, you'll embrace it. If you're a C player, that's why I said the business world may not be right for you. I mean, there's places to hide in the government that you can't hide in the business world, period. But if you're good and you're willing to show it, trust me, especially in this environment where it is an historic challenge to find, retain, and take care of top performers. So That's a little bit about compensation, Derek.